I'm Allie Dodge. I left Vail Resorts about 15 months ago, which was an awesome, I've had a great career, 25 years in various marketing roles, and I loved working for Vail for 10 years, but I left about 15 months ago because I needed to kind of pick and choose my own schedule, have a little bit more schedule, and the reality is I actually like, as much fun as it is to work for a company that size, I kind of missed the basics and I missed the foundation of marketing, and I enjoy demystifying it. And so our appropriate ending on marketing and sex and dating as a metaphor, I actually use quite a bit in business. So today what I want to talk a little bit about is managing your digital presence. And I was involved with Jeremy in helping craft that questionnaire. All those marketing questions were mine. It was important for me to get a sense from you guys as to how sophisticated or you are, or you're just getting your feet wet, how comfortable are you, where are your pain points, what are you doing really well with? So I did spend quite a bit of time with your information, and I'm hoping I put together some thoughts that are at a high enough level where I don't overcomplicate this and go down too many rabbit holes. But if you want a deeper dive on any particular topic, that's really at the end. If you want to raise your hand, let's get deep, let's get super granular and super tactical, and we could go as nutty as you want to go. But I did try to keep it at somewhat of a high level of ahas, just to kind of get us through the time allotted. So we're going to talk a little bit about the highlights from the survey. 3 things were really lifted up. I asked a wide variety of marketing topics, but 3 things had a lot of energy and responses behind them. The first was social usage and strategies. What are you doing? How often are you doing it? Is it successful? Is it not successful? How to avoid the not and do more of the yes. Talk a little bit about websites and blogs, the difference between when do you have a website, when do you just use social. Do you have time to do both? How does a blog fit into that? And then last, we're going to talk about search, because search is one of those pieces that I feel like is really important and is probably as misunderstood in most circles as how to excel at Facebook. So I wanted to proactively spend some time on search. 2,140 responses from the survey. It was awesome. This was a lot of really, really good feedback. So thank you for everyone who took it. I thought there was a couple interesting pieces that came up. There was a very strong desire to grow and maintain your coaching business. But there's definitely some acquisition and retention challenges. Got a lot of great digital strategies that I want to talk about. But there's also plenty of angst with certain channels and what I kind of fondly refer to as channel avoidance. Most of you are involved in Facebook, but there's definitely a certain percentage of you that says, I don't even know how to begin with that. Most of you have a website, but there's a lot of you like, now that I have a website, what do I do with it? So if I ignore the problem, maybe it will go away and I'll just focus on my coaching business. And what I find is that you're spending a lot of time on your clients and very little time on the marketing. So again, I'm hoping to demystify some of this. Oh, and it looks like I'm missing one of my bullet points here. I tried some simple animation. I want to lift up some of the highlights that came out of acquisition and business growth. 50% of you have 1 to 10 clients, but equally 50% of you want to grow that between 10 and 20. So that's a double of your business. 54% of you are coaching part-time, and 45% of you were wishing that you could coach full-time. 77% of you have no formal business plan on how to get there. And yet 100% of you, your job is to work with clients and get them a plan of how they're going to get there. That was a big aha. I'm going to give you a little bit of gentle ribbing on this one. But what I want to try to help you do is figure out like what truly is, what does that sales funnel look for you guys? What does the top of that funnel look like when it comes to acquisition? And as you narrow down to retaining those clients year over year, in order for that 50% to grow and double their business, and for the 54% who are currently coaching part-time, who want to move into full-time, how does that happen? Well, let me tell you what, most of you are not spending enough time on marketing, because only 50% of you said you spent less than 1 hour per week purposefully growing your business. That was what the question said. How much time do you spend purposely growing your business? 1 hour is not enough. That's your hint. 76% said the acquisition strategy was new clients just find me, which is word of mouth. And we talked a little bit in the last panel discussion. That's a really risky business growth strategy, which is not to say that word of mouth isn't a reality. Like I said at Vail Resorts, the number one thing that made people come to one of our ski mountains was because they got a referral from friends and family. It is the reality of how you do business. But you can't just cross your fingers and hope that word of mouth happens. So we're going to talk about that. And 20% don't do any marketing at all and don't plan to. I am hoping that none of you are in this audience and that you're all working on some other skill set to develop over here. But 80% of you definitely want to do marketing, so that's good. So I want to show this list. We had you guys rank the top acquisition tactics. And I think this is a great list, not only because it's incredibly robust, but I actually like the percent weight that this list represents. So 47% of you guys using free digital media, wide variety that falls in that category. 35% volunteering, which is, again, another way for you to expose yourself as an authority and get, I was talking to someone in the lobby about, do you buy a certain email list? Well, if that email list isn't 100% comprised of your target audience, then the answer is no. Go where you get the highest percent of your target audience. That's where to find those folks. And volunteering at a club or an event is a great way. We're going to talk about content creation. 16% event and race expo booths, 12% paid digital media, free local press, free local print press, direct mail, official referral rewards program. I want to talk a little bit about as well, and then paid local print advertising. It's a good list, and it's probably the right percentage of where you ought to be spending the balance of your time, maybe even knocking off, the last 5, so to speak. Some stats on retention and engagement. This was another big aha to me. For all the amount of time that you're not spending on acquiring your clients, you are spending a great deal of time on your clients, on your existing clients, and it definitely shows. To have these kind of retention numbers are phenomenal. So while you're definitely spending, up to 1/3 said 90 minutes per client per week, which is an equal split of analyzing their information, planning, and communicating. And 1/4 said they're spending 90 minutes to 3 hours per client per week. Well, I can tell you what, it's definitely showing in your retention numbers. So I think the question for me was being begged of, could you still retain these clients and figure out a way to become a little bit more efficient on this side in order to open up some space for marketing? Because those really are phenomenal numbers, and what you don't want to do is compromise retention for acquisition, because that's just going to be a point of diminishing returns. When a client does leave you, number one reason was a goal was completed. So they did the race, they achieved their personal record. Only 11% said switch coaches. And assuming that your clients are telling you the truth, which let's go ahead and assume that, again, that's a really great indicator that your secret sauce is working. So we just need to get more people exposed to what you have to offer. 60% use web software for client reporting and coach planning. And I loved this piece down here. 70% of clients have clients interact with each other. 70% of you guys have your clients purposefully interact with each other. Number one way, which was like 90-something%, was in person. Number 2 was 50% of those interactions were on Facebook group, was on a Facebook group that you had set up. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. All right, let's dive right in. 82% of the coaches who responded to the questionnaire are on Facebook. That was number 1. Twitter was number 2, so I went ahead and just threw that in. And for purpose of this conversation in social, I'm just going to talk about those 2 channels. Other channels are being used, but hands down, these 2 were the most prevalent. 90% of those who were using social media for business on Facebook, and 90% were talking daily, just over 50% weekly, and then it begins to kind of slide off monthly, and then when I remember to update my Facebook page. And Twitter was the same type, although with the less frequency as the daily piece. For those of you who are currently using Facebook, I thought there was a section in the survey that talked about why aren't you using social media. And rather than try to overcome some of the roadblocks as to why some people wouldn't be using social media, I wanted to expose you to all the different ways that people are using social media. And perhaps you'll be enlightened or inspired by some of these. Because I don't think a lot of people think about social media, and specifically Facebook, as a multi-utility channel. Here's some of the things that your fellow coaches are currently doing. The coach posts, it was a 90-ish percentile, was a coach pushing out a message or publishing a message, but a ton of client posts, and that's awesome. It's a dialogue like we talked about at 1 o'clock. You want them writing something on their wall where they're CCing you, so to speak, so they're tagging you in their post. I'm looking forward to the marathon this Sunday. I can't wait to see Allie's Trainamrama coaching camp there with me. So it's the clients posting back, which is awesome. Event invitations, one-on-one messaging, and then paid ads. So of those people who are using Facebook, there's high utility across each of those channels. We talked a little bit in the last session about the realities of Facebook starting to charge for advertising. And they are a for-profit business. And rather than look at that as those bastards, how could they charge me? I actually think of it as a gift. In 2009, the average US person was friends with 40 things, so 40 friends, and actually I will say 40 friends because I don't think at the time a lot of brands had Facebook pages in 2009, so it was mostly friends on Facebook, and they only published 5 times a month. So really low number of people you followed and low published from the people who you were following. That number has so dramatically increased. You have the potential, if you stayed on Facebook 24/7, to get 2,500 messages a month, depending on how many people you follow, because of not only the increase of who we follow, but also the increase of the posts by the people we're following, if you're getting my math. So it is impossible. No one is on Facebook 24/7. You're only on Facebook maybe as just a civilian, not a coach, but you're only on Facebook, I don't know, 3 to 5 hours a week. You're never going to be able to see 2,500 posts. So as a marketer, the ability to boost your posts or to do Facebook ads to increase your reach is actually a gift. It's what gets you up above that clutter. So it is unfortunately the price of doing business on Facebook. Otherwise, you run the risk of spending a lot of time posting stuff and only 6 to 10% of your audience ever seeing it. Little slightly different stats when you're talking about a Facebook group, because Facebook groups get pushed to your notification center. So you've got your main Facebook feed, but you can also set up a private Facebook group. So let's say 200 people follow you, and that probably includes your friends and family. But if you have a private group of people who are training for a certain event, or a private group that is only people who you're working with that season, then those people get to see your messages a lot more because it gets pushed into their notification. So they know that something new has happened within the group, and that pings them. Facebook has a way to ping that higher. I mentioned this a little bit earlier about the number of followers. When you take a look at the average number of clients and then you take a look at the average number of followers, clearly a lot of you guys are mixing business with pleasure, and that's okay. So you may be using you may have a lot of friends and family that are following you. You may have other coaches who are following you, but to have the propensity of 250 plus Facebook fans, I mean, that's a lot, knowing on average how many people you're working with. So there's a lot of other extracurricular people in there. So there's a couple benefits to that we're going to talk about in the advantages. How do you leverage when you've got a group that big? How do you maintain the intimacy of your current clients, but leveraging the reach of everyone else who's found you as a friend or liked you? So let's talk about Facebook group as a retention tactic. I asked, what are some of the ways that you're using Facebook group? And here are the top reasons. And I kind of alluded to this in the last session. 95% is the team self-motivates. They police themselves. They inspire themselves. They manage themselves. And how great is that for you as a coach to not have to be constantly facilitating that type of interaction? 60% were with coaches who either they had more senior athletes who were stepping into that role naturally, or maybe the coach was encouraging one of their athletes to step into that role, but setting up these mentorships where if I'm one of your athlete clients and I'm going to say hey, I'm going to go on a ride Saturday, and I'd love for someone to come along with me, and then maybe we can go grab a beer afterwards. Who's in? Or I've really been struggling with hills lately, so I'm looking for someone to climb hills with me. So it's the ability of some of your own clients to help you coach is a phenomenal opportunity. And people are passionate, so they actually want to help step in. And everyone likes feeling helpful. Everyone likes feeling like they have a way to contribute. So leverage that. 48% competitive pressure, they push themselves, and then 12% is social. organizing rides, organizing hangouts, telling funny stories. I got hit by bird poop. Hey, this funny thing happened where I busted my bike shorts, and there's a sense of camaraderie. And whenever that happens, that's the sense of community, and that's part of that retention piece that you can build. Facebook shouldn't be about pushing your message. It should be about attracting people to what you do. And creating a sense of community like this is a great way that people want to be attracted to you. So what are some of the social media advantages? One of the great reach advantages to social is to be able to post your message not only within your feed, but also to one of your clients' walls. So I have a photographer friend, and she sits and she takes these wonderful photos of families. And then the family, of course, says, oh, I want to post these on Facebook. And the person says, no problem. I will post these to your timeline. So Susie's family photography posts these gorgeous family photos that she took of Allie and her family to Allie's timeline. So now Allie's 250 followers get to see all of Allie's gorgeous family photos that Susie took. Allie gets credit, Susie gets credit. Susie just got 250 friends of Allie's to see that she takes family photos, and they may want to go get a photo too. So if you've got an athlete who really overcame something recently or did an amazing finish at a race, certainly post that on your wall, but be sure to tag Allie, because then it goes to Allie's wall. So not only celebrate that within your circle, celebrate that within her circle. Huge reach and retention. Remember what I said, do one thing once, but get 2 or 3 times the benefit. So think about what you do, if you did it slightly differently, how could you extend that ripple effect? Certainly any time that you have that many followers, again, some are going to be active and some are going to be non-active, keeping up even with non-clients supports the referral program. Hey, it's August, it's whatever the right month is. It's time to start thinking about training over the winter for events next spring. Who do you know? Send them my way. Social is a great, easy way to promote your writing. So for those who are actually creating a blog, 35% of you said one of the best ways that they get people to read their blog is to post a snippet of that article on their social page and then move people out of Facebook into your article. A lot of people also don't think about your social pages as being search friendly. Google's really gotten savvy to the social phenomenon, so they're incredibly, if you Google your business, you may notice that your social page now comes up as high as your website did or does. And so leveraging 2 ways, it's just 2 doors for a guest to come in to your house, to your business. So think about, and we'll go through some tips and tricks on how to actually improve your searchability for your social page as well as your searchability for your website. But it's incredibly search friendly, and again, it just doubles the opportunity for someone to see what you have to say. And lastly, Facebook ads are relatively cheap. You guys are in a vertical business. When I had to do boosts and posts at Vail, or if I was acquiring new skiers and riders within Facebook, I mean, that's a massive population of people. So because of the nature of the verticality of your business, it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. We're talking a couple $100 in order to boost a post. And you could also set a financial cap. So you could say, I just want to spend $250 this week, and don't max out over that, and see how far you get. And Facebook is really good about working with you to figure out what's the right language, what's the right photos, what's the right population to target in order to maximize, because they have a vested interest in you doing it more. They want to see you succeed because that means you'll do more boosted posts and Facebook ads. So leverage that sales rep to help you be successful, because then ultimately they'll be successful. From a retention perspective, again, you can use social media to either communicate and do private messages to them. You can create a group. It's an easy way to stay in touch with clients while they're on hiatus. So if you know someone's on hiatus, put a little tickler in your calendar as it gets 60 days out, 90 days out from that same event coming into the next year, and start to say, hey, I'm getting a group together for this marathon. I'm getting a group together for this bike race. I'd love to see you in this year. So just use it as a communication vehicle, but because you've already set up a social relationship with them on Facebook or Twitter, there's no reason not to leverage that channel. Clearly, you can maintain a library of photos and videos. I think the other thing that I really like about both whether it's acquisition or retention with Facebook is that you get real-time feedback. You can see, are people engaged with that post or not engaged? What are they liking right now? Are they liking nutrition messages? Are they liking performance messages? Are they liking when I give them information from other third-party sources? So use that as free market research. And then someone said in the last meeting, once you figure out something that's working, then continue to pull that thread, follow that lead, which is not to say till it gets completely stale, so don't beat a dead horse, but develop a portfolio of what you know your clients and followers are responding to. A lot of times with marketing, it's the holy grail of like, well, how do I know it's working? The beauty of social media is, oh, you know it's working. You know really quickly whether it's working or not working, for good, bad, and indifferent reasons. There's definitely some disadvantages. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that this is like the end-all be-all. By any stretch, but what I would say is it is easy to post. Don't overthink it. Think about a couple, 3 categories that you want to continue to plug that are working for you. Set up a calendar. It can be as simple as one line. It could be a link to an article. I think that what's holding you back is this assumption that it's going to take an hour. If you take 15 minutes, if you take an hour to plan out a calendar, and then you take 5 to 10 minutes to actually post 3 to 5 times a week, that's a way better use of your time. It's cheap and easy to set up. The challenge is social sites are not as in-depth as your own website. That is what it is. Doesn't house your blog. For those of you who like to write blogs and like that search piece, it definitely won't help you there. And there's always going to be the risk of a negative post. But we used to see that as an opportunity to publicly manage a resolution. So ideally, your followers aren't going to necessarily be saying something nasty about you, but if they do, God forbid, you could either pull it out or you could take that opportunity to try to do public customer service with them. Even if it's hey, Bill, I'm really sorry to hear that you were disappointed. I'd love to talk to you one-on-one. I'm going to give you a call so we can resolve this. But let everyone see that you're resolving Bill's issues, as opposed to just Bill blabbing about it on his post and you're not able to actually react to it and take care of it. All right, I'm talking 90 miles an hour. You guys still good? Okay. 77% of coaches have a website. The uses actually are not that different than social. So it may just be what you're more comfortable with. And we have some pros and cons of websites. But from your perspective, some of the things you noted was that it seemed to be easier for clients to find. Again, I think in this day and age, social pages and Google are very compatible. So that may be like an older perception of clients to find you. Makes my business look legitimate. That was about 20% of you. And just almost 30% said it was the best explanation of your services. 2 big advantages to the website, for sure, over social sites: e-commerce and housing blogs. Because we know that social can post photo and video, and we know that you can promote your coaching services through social as well. But social is not blog conducive, and it definitely cannot do e-commerce. Whether you're doing merchandise, if you're just having someone sign up for your services via e-commerce or a sign-up function, or you're actually selling plans, obviously a website's really the right thing for that. So advantages, pros and cons to websites and blogs. Not gonna lie, for certain clients, if their constituent base isn't really social savvy, a website's probably a more comfortable place. You'll have to make the judge. You'll have to be the judge on that as to whether your type of client is more comfortable on your website than it is on a social piece. But I certainly I'll yield the floor to there's maybe some sort of less fly-by-nighty perception out there that a website's slightly more legit. I think one could easily argue that over a glass of wine, so I'll be across the street afterwards. But I had to put something in there. I do think the multiple points of contact help high in the search ranking. So when you have a website and you've got a Facebook page, that tells Google, ooh, these guys talk about legit. In Google's mind, you're extremely legit because you've got 2 points of contact now out on the web. So it's a cumulative effect of 1 + 1 = 4 in that scenario. Obviously a great place to host your blogs, and blogs are really search friendly because they're content rich and because there's lots of keywords in a blog. It is a great tracking mechanism to your website. Now, there's a disadvantage if we're not necessarily doing blogs the right way. We'll talk about in a second. You can also white label a back-end e-commerce solution. So there's plenty that you can buy off the shelf that you just kind of bolt into the back end of your website. Some of the disadvantages of a website. They can be a little bit more expensive to set up than a social channel. They're going to take more time. It's a little bit more task intensive. It's worth the investment, but it's more work for sure than social. That's why there's fewer websites than there are social pages. Thing here, though, is you cannot set it up and walk off because websites still need to be maintained. You can't just look at it as a simple, single frame, single page. You need multiple pages, and you should be keeping them fresh. So don't kid yourself that a website's easier because you don't have to keep it updated. Otherwise, you really almost negated the whole point of having a website because Google will drop you so far down in the search terminology that it will virtually negate it. You also miss that one-to-one relationship with your site visitor. There's no dialogue. You end up what I call, you get a lot of voyeur advantages. So someone's going to come, they're going to look, and they're going to leave. And all Google Analytics is going to tell you, if you're even using Google Analytics on your website, is someone came, they looked at 3 pages, they left. You don't know why, you don't know who they were, you don't know who they were related to. So you have a really limited scope of data when it comes to tracking performance on websites. And blogs take time. So if you're in the process of writing blogs, you can certainly validate this. It takes time to think of the topics. It takes time to write them. It takes time to come up with the keywords that you want to be searched on. It takes time to develop that linking credential. So they take time, and you guys are busy coaches. So no doubt about it. Is it worth the investment? Yes, but it does take time. So I keep harping on search. And I'll tell you why. Even if you guys are getting the majority of your leads from word of mouth, that does not mean that person hasn't looked you up online. Everyone uses Google. I don't care what they're buying other than perhaps toilet papers not being like stupendously researched. But any type of service that you're hiring someone, whether it's Vail Resorts or whether it's a coach or whether it's a bike, you're going to do a lot of online research. So even if they call you up and said, Bill referred me, that doesn't mean that they didn't look you up online in some way, shape, or form to see if you were a good match for them. So influencing search marketing is really important in my head. So if you don't know how Google works, here's like the quick down and dirty basics of it. Google is in the business of returning the best content to the user as possible. So if the user types in Thai food Denver, they only want to be giving them Thai food restaurants in Denver. And quite frankly, Thai food restaurants that get a lot of web traffic, that get really good reviews, that have a menu posted, robust websites that get a lot of action. So they have an algorithm that is constantly changing, so you can't cheat Google. Even the best marketers haven't figured it out yet. But they have a constantly changing algorithm that sends out these spiders that crawl the bagillions of websites out there. And there's over 100 different criteria that go into your score. And your score then is how you're going to show up on a web search. So at the very least, the name of your business should be showing up high. At the very most, typing in Denver Triathlon coaches you should also be showing up high. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to make that happen. The other thing about building good search results is consistency. Google creating a good search reputation takes time. So it's consistency, it's frequency, it's quality. So create these best practices and then stick with it, whether it's search for social or search for websites. So some of the things that Google looks for is the age of the URL. How recently was the website update? Do you have links coming into your website? Do you have links going out of your website? How many people visit you? How long are they there? Do they come in? Blah, this is not what I wanted, and they bounce out? That tells Google, I returned a bad search. Don't put that page out there anymore because 95% of the people who come in turn right around and leave after 3 seconds. We don't want that happening. You want to have a sticky website or you want to have a sticky social page so that you tell Google, oh, pick me, pick me. My stuff works. I have good content. SEO or organic search is search that happens naturally. Paid search, or SEM, is if you Google on a desktop or on a mobile device, if it's easier to see on a desktop, they now have those little buttons that say ad. So that's usually in the number 1 or 2 position. So depending on how many people are purchasing the term, sometimes they can get kind of heinous and get down to 3, 4, or 5. But they're the terms that automatically prioritize you at the top. So that's because you paid for that term. Organic is because Google's algorithm picked your page up. So that's the difference between the two. And I also like to say that SEM is throwing money at a problem. So let's say you're in the heat of the season, and the reality is you don't have time to keep your website up to date. You can buy search terms, and they will prioritize and basically take care of the problem for you. Now, lots of research will tell you that people do not click on search terms. They will not click on those little ads at the top of the page, and that is true. But that didn't mean you didn't make an impression. That didn't mean that just because they don't click on that paid ad that says Allie Dodge Triathlete Coaching, that they didn't see that there's a web link for Allie Dodge Triathlete Coaching. And what I always do is, like, when I'm searching for something, if I like the company, I'll go down and find them organically. If I don't like the company, I make them pay, and I hit on their SEM term so that they get charged for it. And you get charged on based on how many people click. But there's a relationship between SEO and SEM. So even at the end of the day, if no one ever clicks on your SEM terms, it's like billboard advertising. People still see who's there, even though they don't necessarily want to click on it. So that's an interesting sort of human behavior when it comes to search. Whoop, come back. Okay, so some funny things about search, and you guys. Do you monitor your rank in social? 77% said, nope, don't monitor it. I asked a few more questions. What about your social page? Do you rank high in Google? I have not checked, said 35% of you. Luckily, 48% of you have at least checked to see how your social ranking is. All right, let's stop hypothesizing about what your Google search is. You go check right now. I told you that in the survey. Stop what you're doing, open up a new window, and put in your name. Where do you show up? So, the good news is, over 50% showed up first on the results page for organic search. That's awesome. And 15-ish% of you showed up in the top 5. That's pretty good too. But then we start to really drop off. Then it's 5 to 10, and then it's 25%, not even on the first page. Here's the tough stats. 95% of Google users never go past the first page. And before you start congratulating yourself that you were number 5, here's how much the rankings drop off. So the first ranking in organic search gets 34% of the clicks. If you come in second, or you come in 5th, only 6% of the people are going to even take on that number 6 position. Yes?
So I have a question. Do you ask them to put in the name of their coaching business, or just like Triathlon Coach Den?
So if ideally your website or social page has been set up to a place where it recognizes your brand name, and you don't have to pay for those terms. But I asked people in the research to type in their coaching business name. I didn't say type in what you do. I said type in your name.
Sometimes it's hard to remember, like if you're like, oh, I saw them on a race, but it's endurance.
Right. Right. So that's why I feel like buying search terms and embedding search terms are really important. So let's say you have a website and your name is, your business name is Trainorama. That was really cute when you were drunk in the bar, but the reality is no one can remember it, right? So they don't remember your name as Trainorama, but they're going to type in Denver Triathlete Training. What I want my website is to have my name, Trainorama, but I want it to say, I am a 20-year veteran of training athletes in the Denver area. And Google says, okay, her name's kind of weird, but I know what she does, because she's got that as her first sentence of her website. So I can either build my site to be organic search friendly, to where those category pieces bubble up within the search if someone's doing more of a generic search, or I could pay for it. So I could pay for the term Denver Triathlete Coaching. So when I was at Vail, a good example is we never bought brand terms. Like, it was incumbent upon the teams that they had to have good organic recognition. But I did pay for Colorado ski vacation. Super competitive. There's 27 ski resorts in the state of Colorado, and everyone's buying those terms. So I pushed the teams hard to come in high in organic, but God forbid you didn't, we were going to pay for it. So I covered my bases both ways. So there's your brand term, and ideally, if you can get your page or either your social page set up correctly or your website set up correctly, you should be able to kind of trust that to organic. But depending on how competitive your market is, if you have a lot of coaches that you're up against, I would definitely make sure that you've got a lot of category terminology in there. If someone's looking for you or you're having a conversation with someone and you tell them what you do, that's your search term. This is what I do, you know. I train athletes to win, you know, it's a training for X, right? So it's however you're having a conversation with people, that's the terminology you want to put in there. 3 to 4 words. Phrases, right? So you may have 3 to 5 word phrases, but my point is that they don't have to be long extended sentences. They're short, brief snippets about what you want to do, that who would be Googling that term. So let's talk about improving searchability for websites and blogs. If you have a blog, and I'm going to try to go fast because I want to leave time for Q&A. If you have a blog and you're not self-hosting, I highly encourage you to switch over and go to WordPress and get it hosted. If you are writing a blog for someone else, you are only improving their search. You're not improving yours. So all that time and energy you're putting into is going to make someone else successful. Is it going to get you some recognition? Yeah, sure. But ultimately, those people should be coming back to you. You should be getting that blog credit, not someone else. Again, others link to your blog. You should be linking to others. That absolutely improves your searchability. Use your title tags. Most websites default to some sort of HTML, and then in those arrows it says new page. There's some sort of text in the middle. No one is searching for new page. That's what it'll return. So make sure that page is called triathlete coaching, or that page is called race results, or that page is called triathlete nutrition. Whatever that page is, give it a name, and that will pick up in Google. On your charts, on your graphs, on your photos, on your video, there's an alt tag. Use it. That also gets picked up by the crawlers. Interlink words within your pages. So let's say you have 10 pages, and we talked earlier about the search terms, and your search term is going to be triathlete, successful triathlete coach. Make sure that word also shows up on 3 or 4 other pages. So you're linking from page 1 to page 6 to page 10 within your website. You've got consistent language that you're using. Now, don't be fake. Don't use weird, stilted English language that says, I am a triathlete coach who enjoys coaching triathletes for their triathlon, and when they need a coach for triathlons, I am the triathlon coach for them. Like, no, that will be awesome for search, but horrible for a coach, because who wants to talk to you when you talk like that? So you have to use some level of reason. Stick with one. I'd rather you do a short page that stays above the fold, and above the fold means before you have to scroll down. Ironically enough, it's a newspaper term used digitally still. But I'd rather have shorter pages and more of them than a long page with multiple topics. Google likes authority. They like knowing that you're really well versed in a lot of different things. So create more pages and link that terms in between the pages. Right to sound educated, not to impress Google. And take a class with Google. There's also another great company called Lynda, Lynda. They do a lot of online training. Google has a lot of online training. Again, Google wants you to be successful on Google. Because if you're successful on Google, they're successful. Because it's all about them making money through successful searches. Both Facebook and Google have really good online classes. Real quick on the social sites, I think this is my last slide. Yay! Not huge differences on how to manage the web page. It's just modified for social purposes. So use keywords again, just like you would on a website. Don't use the default name that Facebook gives you. Hopefully at this point, everyone has created what they call a vanity URL. So if you're Joe's Restaurant, that's what it should look like. It shouldn't be XYZ123 /:. You need to have 25 users in order to create a vanity URL. Most of you guys probably already have that. Pick an easy name and stick to it. Again, Allie's Trainorama, probably too clever, not really usable. There's a 75-character about box, and fill it with words that you know that people would be looking for. So maybe they'll remember my name, Allie. They'll probably spell it wrong. Ideally, they're maybe picking up on the word marathon or triathlon. So when someone types in marathon or triathlon, you can show up. Again, don't write it to sound like super awkward and googly. write it like a human would speak English, but see how quickly you can get as many of your words in there as possible, your search words. Optimize your info page on Facebook. It's okay to show all the different ways that people can contact you. So again, Google likes that you're a legitimate business with a phone number and an email and a website and a Facebook page. So they want your website to point to your social. They want your social to point to your website. They want both to have phone numbers and have emails and contact information that just says you guys are legitimate. Those are all interesting, odd proof points for Google, but they are nonetheless. Identify a list of 5 keywords and try to get them in every single post. So if you're thinking of your social calendar and you think of those words, repeat, repeat, repeat. Google loves consistency. And so do your clients, by the way. It's about consistently communicating your brand. Again, don't be obnoxious about it, but the idea is how can you continue to get in some of these keywords? So if you have a social channel and a website or a blog for that matter, don't put everything on one. So if you're going to send out an email about a new post that you just made, give a snippet and then send them, because they opened up your email and now they'll go to your social page. Or if you wrote a blog, give a snippet on social and make them go to your blog, because now they looked at your post and they're going to read your blog. 1 action, 2 rewards. Add a social channel like box back on your website to put back. Don't feel like they're competitive, feel like they're working in union, but make them work harder in union. Okay, that's a ton of information, sorry. But that's it.